Oh shit. Oh shit. What is going on, chat? Whoops, wrong one. There we go. Force a habit on that one. I went to the wrong screen. That's for video games, not for therapy days. Boo, don't hate me. Well, you know what, Eggy? I can't help it. Or, let's see. Was it, Egolce? No, Eholce. Is that how you pronounce it? Eholce. I think I got it right. All right, well, everybody, welcome back to... What do you mean, no? I looked it up. Eholce. Oh, you suck. All right. Welcome to Therapy Thursday, everybody. Therapy Thursday is where I myself sit here with my sister Esteri, who is a professional therapist, and we go over mental health topics. So anybody who has any mental health questions, feel free to drop them into chat, and we will go ahead and discuss them live. See, for some reason the chat box isn't showing up, but oh well, we'll figure that out in a minute. All right, let's get her in here. Everybody, hello.
I was gonna beat you before you said I know she's in here.
Well, too bad you didn't.
Oh dang.
I'm actually having a bit of a problem here. The chat box is not showing up on the stream. I don't know why.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not loading. Fun stuff. Must be like an update or something where it just doesn't want to work now. Because normally when anybody types something in chat, it kind of like pops up on the right side.
I know.
But now it's not happening. Anyway, well, we'll get into it. So, how are you?
I am doing well. I am it's day 4 of my new job. And I'm in love with it. I love it so much. I literally get to go and make my schedule, and I just get to come and go as I please.
That's awesome.
That's really freaking nice. And I really, really like that. So that being said, I don't know, much less stress, better pay, freaking like all of it is fucking, it's pretty darn good. I can't complain on this end.
Nice. And how was your trip?
My trip was good. I won't name drop the flight company I flew with, but they suck.
So it's American Airlines.
No, it was like, let's just give it a hypothetical name, Frontier.
Frontier.
Yeah, it was bad. It was so bad. We got delayed like twice. It extended our freaking day of travel by so much. We didn't get home until like close to 3 o'clock in the morning. It was just
wow.
It was just a pain in the butt. But it was exactly what I felt like was needed in order to like get a true proper break, because I just went out into like nature and hiked a bunch, or not hiked a bunch, we went a lot into nature, did a lot of walks. It was raining there like almost all the time we were there. And then we went to Lake Michigan, and that was amazing. It was so fucking nice to be in the water. It was, it was just refreshing. It wasn't all salty, obviously, because it's a lake.
Wait, so you got in the water, it wasn't that cold or no?
It was, oh yeah, it was cold when you first got in. And it was clear. Like, heck, it was nice. And, it was kind of windy. It was just really nice. So I definitely recommend.
All right, so there you go, everybody. If you want to have a nice, I guess, cool place to go to Lake Michigan.
Yeah, and if you ever want a place to like also just enjoy a nice silly little vacation, go to Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's nice out there. But anyway, yeah, nice time. Can't complain. Happy to be back. Job is lovely. Things are pretty okay right now on my end, just in overall and in general. How are things with you?
Oh boy, I don't know if you really want to get into that right this second.
Okay, we will.
We're getting that. Well, before we keep going, tell everybody who you are, your qualifications, and your, you know, I keep forgetting the word.
My spiel.
Yeah, give them your spiel.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Asteria. I will not be disclosing my real name. But I will disclose my credentials because that would be more appropriate. I am an associate marriage and family therapist in the state of California, so that means I can only speak on behalf of the law and ethic rules to which I am obligated to work under as appointed to by my state. I have a background. My background is dominantly in trauma, substance use, dissociative disorders, and freaking a lot of it is person-centered modalities that are strength-based. The approach I go about my work is I already believe you already have the abilities to take care of yourself and like to heal yourself. If you're to work with me, I'm just a tool to help you figure that for yourself. I like to come on here on this stream because I know that times are tough, money is hard, resources are even harder to come by. So I like to come in here and answer questions related to mental health and supporting in a very like surface level. I wish I could go more. However, I can't because of the platform to which we work upon, and I want to respect that boundary. In addition to boundaries, I do not do any diagnosing on here. I cannot confirm or deny if your freaking mom is a narcissist. Let's just assume yes. And when it comes to questions just in general about minors, I just won't answer questions on minors. I have 3 protected classes I have to take care, or I have to I'm mandated to report upon, which are children, dependent adults, meaning anyone that is a legal dependent as appointed by the state of California, or by a legal entity, and elders, so anyone over the age of 65. So any of those populations that are on here, I'm going to say I'm a little bit more hesitant to providing support, as they are more they're more protected classes. So I just want to highlight that. However, outside of that, please feel free to ask questions. Otherwise, we'll just kind of jump into different topics on here. So yeah.
So please initial and sign at the bottom of the of the disclosure agreement that you just listened to. Holy
This was
moly.
a legal agreement, or this was a verbal agreement, excuse me.
Sign, date, initial.
Mm-hmm.
May cause excessive amounts of gas and low resale value on your home. One thing I did want to ask you about before we get into my stuff. Well, first off, chat. If you can read up on the screen there, it's up there. If you have any questions regarding mental health, if you're feeling a certain way, feel free to throw them in chat, and then we'll read them as they come in. First come, first serve kind of deal. Do you think your friend would be watching this?
I think I have friends watching right now.
The one you went to visit.
Oh, no, I don't.
Did you want to go over the situation you had messaged me about? Or do you want to keep that?
Did I message you about the situation? I was really upset.
Yeah, you were having a meltdown, basically saying, I can't deal with this guy.
Oh, it got worse.
It got
It
worse.
actually got worse.
Okay, yeah, because apparently the last thing you told me is you were sitting in a car going somewhere, so you just kind of like
Oh my gosh.
vomited.
No, okay, so the likelihood is no, they won't be in here. And I'm gonna just summarize this and I'll bring in mental health to why it's relevant. Okay. First of all, okay, thanks. Second, second of all, freaking, I want to talk about the influence of partners when it comes to the lens to which they view the world.
What do you mean by the the lens? Oh wait, are you saying how partners affect the other person's view of the world?
And like may play an impact on like their view, their behaviors, and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say this because I think we should talk. You know what? I'm gonna dedicate the topic today for relationships. The tonight's topic is relationships. Okay, so I'm gonna start this off, and if anyone in the chat, if the chat can type, or if you'd like to, relates to what I'm gonna say, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, they can type. It's just it's not showing up on the actual screen so everybody else can see it. So basically, anybody who's watching the recording of this, they can't see what chat is writing. So that's the only downside. I can see everything, and if they're sitting on Twitch, they can see everything too. But just the people watching the recording later.
Okay.
Sucks to suck.
I want to start off. I'm going to pause on my particular situation, and I'm going to open up the discussion in a very general way. Have you or anyone that you know have been impacted by, romantic relationships they've been in? And if so, would you like to share an example?
Oh, there's an example. Pretty much everybody I know. There you go. End of story.
Fantastic. I love summaries.
So, but the most recent one that's bothered me, let's see, what name can we give them? I mean, it doesn't really matter because they're not online. Let's just call him the toaster, the small toaster. I got a.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I know.
Yeah, so I got a hold of him, and we were supposed to hang out last week. He suggested, hey, let's hang out Monday after work. I said, absolutely. I mean, well, this has nothing to do with his relationship. I'm just kind of going off on a tangent here. We're supposed to hang out Monday. It was his idea after work. He bailed because he set an appointment. And then he said Tuesday, but I can't do Tuesday because I have a two-wheel Tuesday. So then he said, okay, let's do Wednesday. So I said, all right, let's do Wednesday. And I was getting ready. And he goes, oh, sorry, I'm not feeling good. And then he said, let's do Thursday. And then you weren't in town. So I said, okay, let's do Thursday. And then at the end of the day, he's like, oh, I got to go visit my grandma. So he bailed again. And then I was like, all right, whatever, maybe next week. And I just haven't heard from him since.
Jeez, that sounds quite frustrating.
Oh, yes.
I definitely want to say that actually it's kind of funny that you're bringing up the little toaster. Because I was just talking to our elder sibling about the little toaster yesterday. Because we were talking about how we can see the impact of the relationships that our elder sibling and me are like our best friends are having right now, like in their lives, right? Because
so,
like they're
the one you went to go visit, like them, and how Toaster's being affected by his girlfriend or wife or whatever the hell they are now.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So what was I gonna say? So freaking what was I gonna say?
Gather your thoughts.
I'm just taking a moment to like respond rather than react, because I could feel myself getting emotionally like elevated, and I don't want to speak from that place. I want to speak from like more. I want to speak from my prefrontal cortex, not my limbic system.
Gotcha.
So ultimately, my best friend is someone that has a history of being very easily influenced by their partners, right? And the relationships that they're in.
All right, so this is not
Meaning
the
that
first time.
no.
Okay.
They've been since I've or no, not since I've been. We've been friends since we were like freaking 8 years old. Um, I've been in the 3 relationships that they've been in. She's very much has taken and adopted a lot of these qualities of her partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I want to just start off, especially for anyone that's listening. It's very natural to take in qualities of your partner because that's your partner. Like, this is a relationship. This is something that just naturally happens. However, I feel like there's to a certain extent, right? I wish I could show it, but we're not doing like a video on this, or at least on my end.
I am.
But there's
Hi,
this.
chat.
I could try to describe it to you, but it's something ironically our father has shown me, and it's something I very much still apply even in like my therapeutic work. It was actually good advice. The advice was, if you take your hand, right, and you put your index finger and your thumb together and make a circle, and you say like, that's you, right?
Uh-huh.
And then if you do the same to your other hand, let's say that's your partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the space that you share is when you link them together, and leave a little spot in between that you can see through. That's the space that you share together in the relationship, right? But
Yeah.
the more that you become and like integrate yourself into this relationship, and you start to move it to where they become one, like you can't see the difference between you and them anymore, and you lose the sense of self.
Right.
And that's ultimately what happens, and is a common pattern with my best friend. And many a times, even as I was discussing this with our elder sibling, he was like, why don't you talk to her about this? It's not as a matter of like I'm trying to avoid discussing this with her.
Mm-hmm.
It's that if there's an issue with it, the issue is mine. It's not, and there's no point in me projecting that onto her, because she doesn't see that she's fine, right? Like she's totally okay. So who am I to dictate what should be right or wrong in her relationship? You know what I mean? And so, like, that's, anyway.
So she's happy.
So she's happy, right? And ultimately, I feel, and I would like to hear your thoughts on this, I feel that if I were to tell her what I view about this, she will take this as an impact to self, like an impact to her decision making and her ability to maintain relationships, ABC, rather than seeing it then coming from a place of care. And I just don't see, if I am weighing out the risk of all of this and the impact, I don't see that outweighs like me telling her. Like, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, so basically you're saying that if you come out and say something about something that may not be bothering her at all, she will see it as you judging her and saying like, what are you doing? It's let's put it this way. I'm going to compare it to this. Let's say somebody, and I'm not going to say I despise these people, but I don't agree with them. People who like ketchup on steak. You can sit there and add ketchup to your steak and eat it all day long, while someone else like me who's like, that's not supposed to be like that. But if I come out and call you out on it, then you're going to be like, what's wrong with the way I like my food? They're going to take it as more of an attack instead of me just going, oh, they like it like that. If they're happy, who cares?
If they're happy, who cares, right?
Don't put ketchup on your steak.
So who am I to say anything or do anything, or to it's not say share, because I could still share. I can't, because I still can't control how she's going to respond to me, right?
Right. Just real quick, just to make sure we're on the same page. Eggy says, it seems like in most relationships, people reflect or mimic habits of their significant other, but it seems like this is more to an extreme, if I'm following correctly, and now it's a matter of should I say something or not.
That's exactly it.
There you go. Eggy got it.
Eggy got it to a straight point. First of all, hi Eggy. Second of all, yes, and ultimately that's where I'm at in that spectrum of extreme, right? Because if I were to take a step back and take my emotions and kind of like allow them to reflect inward as well, I could see it's like, is this hurting her? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if it's hurting her or our relationship, then I would jump in, no questions about it, right? However, it's at a place now where that it doesn't meet that criteria, and I still have feelings about it, of course. Though if we were basing off exactly what Eggy was just sharing, it's not enough motivation for me that seems to like to bring this into a discussion between her and I at this time.
Right. I mean, and I think that's essentially what I said to you over the text. I was like, look, if she's happy, leave it alone. But if she's obviously got a problem with it, and if it's bothering her, or if it's like having a negative effect on her in some way that's, you know, noticeable, then yeah, jump in.
Yeah, which that's why I want to bring up Little Toaster, because that is an extreme in my opinion. From what I understand, is that is that's an unhealthy relationship based on what has been observable reports by people around them, not just my siblings, but like other folks to which I won't name.
Well, us, his siblings, you know, I think he sees it himself, his family. Yeah, we've heard it from a lot.
So, yeah.
But, I don't know, he just doesn't want to change. Well, unfortunately, he has children with said person, so he's kind of in a bit of a pickle that I don't know how to get out of, so... That's beyond my expertise at that point.
Right. So I feel like, so to wrap up just kind of like this kind of topic when it comes to relationships, I think just that when it comes to people around you, and like loved ones, friends, family, and everything like that, I feel that there's a line that needs like a responsibility on the individual that has to check in and saying, hey, if something is bothering you, is it a matter of you going in and changing it because it's something that's impactful to you, or is it that you're concerned it's impacting the person that you care about? And I think there's an importance of understanding the distinction of the two, because many a times people project things that's going on internally for them onto others, and therefore it places a lot of wedges and impacts a lot of relationships for people.
Yeah, I mean, I know two people straight out of the gate. You know both of these people. One of them was a previous relationship, and the other one's just someone you know.
Okay.
It's like stuff with their parents. Both of them kind of have the same issue,
where
their mothers, I mean, we can just pinpoint it out, basically just beat them down to such a point where it's negatively affecting their lives. And I mean, with both these situations, I'm like, hey, you got to get out of there, or, you know, stop listening to them, because they're sucking the life out of you, and it's affecting you in a bad way. and but
Right.
they don't want to hear it, and I don't know. So,
Yeah. You really can't. You can't force people to change. You really just can't. And though you still have a right to, you can share your feelings about, a situation, a person, and so forth, and you can't control the outcome.
right.
So you have to recognize that. And I really think that many folks feel like because their intentions are coming from a good place or whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
that they don't see and like take a step back and view the whole situation before like making steps. This is where I think this goes back to what we've talked about, the difference between reacting versus responding.
Right.
So this is another fine example of that.
Yeah, I mean, I also heard something today. I was watching a video on YouTube, and this guy said he realizes that he doesn't have the power to change people, like you said. You can't change people's minds, but what he says, like, he's like, I realize that, but what I can do, like, I don't see myself as someone who can change your mind, but I have the ability to plant seeds. And if the soil ever comes to the right point to where that seed will grow, then it'll grow. So you can just like throw an idea at someone like, hey, I'm noticing this and this and this, just something for you to keep an eye on. And at first, like with both these scenarios I'm dealing with or have dealt with or whatever, the people I know, I'm not dealing with it, they're dealing with it. I'm like, hey, this is a toxic thing. You should like really consider changing it. And they both said, no, you don't understand. This is different. But perhaps in maybe a year or something, they'll sit back and look at you and go, you know what? Maybe what he said, it'll eventually bury its way in, and they'll see it and go, oh shit, all right. Then they'll be willing to make the change.
Yeah, ultimately, what was I gonna say? Ultimately, what you're talking about planting seeds is what I think is kind of like not a risk, but kind of an impact that can still happen regardless if something comes out of a scenario or not. Like for instance, in my line of work, being a clinician and so forth, is that I have some clients that are very rigid and like or ambivalent to wanting to change. And nonetheless, if they're not ready or they're reporting that they're not going to receive and they're not willing to receive the messages I'm telling them, I still find it very impactful to share it anyway, because at some point down the road, if they get to a place, if ever, that they're willing to receive those messages, they can say, oh, I remember the time that I was told this, and now I'm in a place where I can apply it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that in itself is the planting of the seed, because just because you plant the seed doesn't mean you automatically see the roses or whatever, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's what the guy pointed out. He was like, I'll plant the seed, and then if the soil ever becomes fertile to where it'll accept the seed, then the seed will grow. But not all soil is going to... You can't plant a seed in every type of soil and expect it to grow.
Yeah,
is what he's saying. So it's like, you're like, hey, here's the thought, just put it there, and if it ever becomes the right conditions, then it'll sprout.
Yeah. And that's ultimately like what I'm getting at, because like it also comes down to what we were saying about what is it worth it, what is the risk of like sharing. So it's like you can plant seeds and there's still a risk in planting the seed, whether somebody is like, because again, it's there now, like whether they remembered it or not, whether they're going to recall it and interact with the thought, that's out of your control. But there's also an impact to how you go about planting the seed, right? Because
Right.
have you ever had a time where like you received a message from somebody but they did it in such a way that you didn't like weren't receptive to it, and when somebody else said it in a different way you're like, oh yeah, and you were much more receptive to it?
I'm sure it's happened. I just can't pull it off, like pull any ideas out.
That's okay. um but yeah, I think that happens a lot for folks. And it's again reflection of, is this person ready to receive this, right?
Yeah, Iggy says her boyfriend.
She said her boyfriend.
Yeah, so I'm sure he's like, hey, try doing this, and she's like, shove off or whatever.
Yeah,
And
just
then,
like that too.
Yeah, then maybe her dad would be like, hey, have you tried this? And she's like, all right, you're right.
Well, at that time, at this point,
Yeah, she's laughing.
I want to, of course, Miss Iggy. So with that being said, I don't know. Like I don't know who else is in the chat, or even Iggy, or whatever the case may be. I'd love to hear like if anyone has any questions about relationships, or like to bring in a scenario that you'd like us to dissect. Like, I would like to open the floor, because I feel like relationships can go many different ways on like how we can approach them.
Gotcha. Eggy says, I meant more in the sense of like, damn it, Eggy, would you stop putting like in your sentences? I meant more in the sense of trying to tell him something and it doesn't sink in, so you have to attempt a different approach. Oh, okay. So she's explaining things to him, not vice versa. I automatically assumed that he was trying to explain stuff to her and she's flipping out because I know her, so I'm passing judgment.
Are you in passing?
She says I do that too.
What was I gonna say? I remember a time where I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I have a history of like having folks question of like, hey, and checking in with themselves of like, hey, how are things really going with your relationship? And I definitely have multiple experiences of folks like giving feedback of like being receptive to it or not. And oh gosh. Sorry.
You're looking at your phone.
No, I had to pause for a second because somebody, one of my friends is in our chat, or like in the watching right now, and they posted, but I don't know if it posted or not. They
So
took
the
a
secret
screenshot of
Wookiee?
it. Yeah.
The last thing Secret Wookiee said, boo to your hypothetical airline, and then oh no when you started the story. That's the only thing that's come through.
Oh dang. Well, I'm gonna wait and get permission from them to read what they shared. Because they sent the screenshot. Oh, nice tank top, by the way.
No. You could tell them to repost. I've had that happen a few times on Twitch where I typed in something, but it didn't really go through or something because I'd refreshed the page. Yeah, like I because I typed something, it didn't work. I was like, how come they didn't read that? So I refreshed the page, and then it shows like the backlog of chat, and mine was gone. So it's like, I think something, it freaks out, like Twitch just kind of loses messages from time to time.
Okay,
it's happened multiple times to me in other people's chats. So
okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read it because I've been given permission.
Okay, go ahead.
So it says, I have an off-topic question. Okay, which is fine. We do that here. So my father was active military for 25 years. He cheated on my mother when I was a child, and that broke up our family for good. 20 years later, he blindsides me with the fact that he married that person, has a child with them, and retired and told me nothing at all. He told me about my half sibling 2 months before they were born, before leaving for deployment. He then tried to hold Christmas gifts over my head and said that I had to actively be a part of his new family in order to get the present. My quote stepmom's family actively belittled my involvement with my sibling as a baby. I stopped talking to them, but I feel bad that this may hurt my half sibling. Am I wrong? Do I really need to go out of my way to reconcile? I think this is interesting that this is being brought to us because we're half siblings.
Right.
And so first of all, I want to hear your thoughts and then I'll jump in.
My opinion, your dad sucks. Let's see. So, cheated on your mom, then had a child with the other woman. Now, your father's holding basically Christmas presents over your head, or did. I don't know if this is in the past or currently. Mm-hmm. So, if you want them, you gotta come be a part of this family. Also, a dick move.
But then the quote unquote stepmom's family actively belittled this person by involving them with their involvement with their half sibling. So they stopped talking to them, but now they feel bad that this may hurt their half sibling. Am I wrong? Do I really need to go out of my way to reconcile?
I don't think you need to really go out of your way. Do we know how old the other sibling? It says my sibling is 20 years different from me. I was a freshman in college when they were born.
Well, that's 20 years difference. Like, yeah. I have thoughts and feelings about this, especially with like our situation. Honestly,
ambush me at Thanksgiving dinner at my college. Oof.
Jeez.
So I'm assuming that this person is closer to your age. So that means this. Okay, my opinion, because based off of you and me, for the most part, we didn't, and what, huh?
And our eldest.
And our eldest. We honestly didn't really speak to each other for a good, I don't know, like 15, 20 years. There was a pretty big gap in there. So, I mean, I don't think it affected anything, but then again, I'm kind of like dead from the neck down. Or emotionally just like freaking dead to the world. But I don't know. I say maybe just it. My thought is to just ignore it, or not ignore it, but keep your distance. Let things play out, and once the sibling is old enough to like really think like a more mature person, so maybe teenage years, then like, just like, or even before then, back, hey, this is your older sibling, just message them on Facebook or whatever, and then as they get older, try to get more contact with them. I mean, kind of like what we did, but that's all I have to go off of. See, Aggie says, I mean, it's hard enough to create a bond with someone with such an age gap, let alone everything else involved with this. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, this individual's going to be 40 when this sibling is 20. You know what I'm saying? However, now I definitely would like to jump in because in our scenario, you and the eldest are full siblings. I'm the half sibling.
Right.
And I think that's really important with what we're talking about, because when we were growing up, even though I'm the youngest, I was practically raised as a single child, as an only child.
Right.
And I had these glimpses of y'all when I was younger, and that like come to memory, like, and there's really big things that y'all did in my life when I was younger, which motivated me to continue to seek y'all out when I got older. So the reason why I want to kind of highlight that and pause for a second on that point alone is because it was really important to me the way that y'all were in my life when I was younger, which motivated me to want to create a relationship when I was older.
Okay.
So, um, so I think finding or having some sense of effort, even just a little bit, can go a long way. Now, I can only imagine that there's going to be some influence by or from the family of origin of how to view you, and like, which totally sucks. And again, it's not your fault. You're not less than because of how they're going to influence your sibling. It's because it's coming from their control, a place of control rather than like anything that actually defines how you are. But I would still say try. Like, I'm just saying this as a half sibling, as the youngest, because between me and our eldest, there's a 10-year difference. And I spent a lot of my energy trying to like reconcile and like create a relationship with both of you. And when they're younger, it may not be so fruitful. But once what you were saying, once they get older, if they see that you are trying to make the relationship happen, they may then, as they're developing their own sense of self, they'll say, yo, I'm gonna still go try to find this person and create a relationship with them independently from the family, which is very possible.
I mean, yeah, that's actually a good point. Even if it's only like once a year. Let's see. So Secret Wookiee says he retired. So I'm assuming their father. He retired quietly and then moved out of the state. My dad's side now does not contact me, but they actively flew out to see my sibling. They only saw me 2 times in my life. I kind of feel like I really was not recognized as his child. I've heard stuff like this before. The most recent ex of mine had this problem with her father, but like, so she was the youngest, and I think the youngest, and so her father had kids with a previous wife and then left that woman and then got with this girl's mom and had her. And so the previous family despised her, like, just because like she was, I don't know if you want to call it like a bastard child. She wasn't a bastard child, like her mom and dad were married, but it's just like they hated her because the father left and had her with a different woman.
So why do you, in your opinion, why did you think that they hated her? Truly, you know?
Well, based off the story I've heard, but then again, it turns out we found out she's a narcissist, and who knows how much of the shit she made up, because she does kind of suck. But
no, borderline, not narcissistic.
She's borderline narcissistic?
No, borderline not narcissistic, but we could talk about that separately.
Okay, anyway, so I mean, I think that from what I have gathered is they did not like her because her father was giving her all the attention instead of the other like 3 children with the previous woman. So I think it was more of a, I don't know if you want to call it jealousy or just, it's not jealousy. I don't know what you would call that, but basically it's like, hey, this other kid is taking up all the time that he should be giving to us his first 3 kids. Screw that other girl over there with the other woman. Just
I think it's
bitterness.
A form of projection. Yeah, I think it's a form of projection.
Mm-hmm.
And even in what the secret, what Secret Wookiee is trying to say, like, I still think that it's a form of projection. It's a form of projection that these folks have their feelings and their emotions about this whole scenario, and they do not appear to come across with emotional maturity, to which they continue to be reactive rather than responding to the situation. And they, instead of having to deal with their own feelings about it, they're trying to make it where like this individual has to hold it, or is trying to hold it for them, and they're trying to make them hold it for them, right?
Yeah.
So to go back to what I want to emphasize is that this is where I was saying that you still have power here, even if it seems like they're trying to take it away. And therefore it comes down to a choice of self. Now, unfortunately, and I'm so sorry you're going through all of this, by the way, this fucking sounds like it sucks, in my opinion. And you still have power here, even though they're trying to come across in a way where they're trying to have a pseudo form of control. I would say, if you want to, still make attempts, because once your like sibling gets to an age and they find out truly how much you put in an effort, I'm saying this even as like the youngest of our sibling line, that would mean so much to me. Like, I specifically remember, because a super long story short, I'm not saying like our family history, because God, we don't only have so much time, is that there was many years where we weren't talking to each other, and it has to do because of our father and family and, you know, a bunch of stuff, right? And one day, ironically, that we were talking about my best friend, I was staying the night at my best friend's house. While I was there, I started getting a fever, and I was like suffering, right? Mm-hmm. And she let me have access to her computer to kind of like let me just check on my like messages on, I forgot which platform, I think it's probably MySpace. And when I checked, I got a message because I reached out to our eldest, whom I found on there, and I said something. Now, I know I was very young, so whatever anyone's gonna say, but I was like, hey, I don't know if you know who I am, but
I think I remember that.
And I was like, hey, I'm trying to, and that was my first attempt, like individually, outside of the influence of like family and parents. That was me reaching out, and from there, that's how I created a connection individually from our parent and family situation. Mm-hmm. And it came off that, and why it mattered so much is that from there, we, meaning you, me, and our eldest, started to like find ways, or like we started visiting each other outside of our family system.
Right.
And I think that had much more quality in itself. It meant a lot to me. And because of that, now like we have a different relationship now. So I just, in summary for like everything, I think that if you want to have a relationship with your sibling, I encourage continuing to reach out in like whatever way you feel comfortable to do. And I encourage, very similar to what we were saying earlier, that this is probably going to be the whole like planting of the seed. Like, there, you may not see the impact of what you're going to do. If you do this now, it may not come across until later down the road. However, I would definitely bet that there would be some possibility of a relationship outside of the family system that could possibly still happen, if that's something that you want to do. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's always good to have somebody that you keep like reach out to a point, because you never know when you're going to need that kidney transplant. And
Oh my god.
this one might just be compatible in 30 years, you know.
Oh man, the investment that keeps on going.
No, I mean, yeah, what she said. I mean, if it matters that much to you, then yeah, put in the attempt, even if it's a few times. You know, even during, like, I don't know, holidays are weird. I mean, but just whenever you feel it's comfortable to put in an attempt here and there, like, hey, I exist. I'm your sibling. Hello.
Yeah.
Here's
You know what?
Here's a crisp $1 bill.
Yeah, honestly, I cannot emphasize on, like, again, just from the point of view of like the half sibling in this situation. I can't tell you, like, I was sent little tiny gifts from our eldest here and there, or he left it, or he gave it through our cousin, something like that, right? To give to me and shit like that. And I held on to that shit. Like, that was the sign of, like, oh, this is a sign of, like, the relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hell, give them a shiny quarter, like, and it might have no value in, like, fucking 20 years, but, like, hey, it probably would mean a lot. And, yeah, like, it's interesting enough that this has been brought up, because our eldest not so long ago shared with me that he actually has a regret about that whole situation. I don't know if I told you, but he shared with me, and it was really interesting, and I didn't know this impacted him like this. So, you know, if this is something that people in the chat have experienced, just also love to hear from you. Our eldest shared with me that he regretted not saving me from that situation, or not putting more effort in when I was younger to have a relationship. And
Gotcha.
I want to say, like, I feel for the guy. I really do, because I know he does care. That is something I won't doubt about the dude. Even if the care comes off like misdirected sometimes, I get it, like, you know. However, I won't doubt that he has care. However, like, I hope he truly also forgives himself for that one, because he was a kid too, you know. And then when he was like 20, he had a kid, which I can't even fathom having a child at that young.
Yeah, man, and fathom being in the room when that child was conceived.
Yeah,
I was not happy about that.
I know you weren't, and you still aren't.
Yeah, that still pisses me off. I'm like, dude, not cool. Well,
but yeah.
All right, finish your thought.
No, that's it. Like, I just think that, like, I think the thing is, in summary, what I'm trying to say is that there's so many lines of, like, this is what I should have done, this is regret and everything like that. But I hope you give yourself, like, a break and saying, hey, you can only do the best you can with the situation that's just out of your control. And just saying, like, hey, put in your best effort if you want to, and that effort is in itself enough. Like, I hope you don't hold so much pain and guilt and shame on yourself. You're doing the best you can.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that's true. If you feel like you're doing the best, then, like, if you feel like you've done everything you can, then there's only so much you can do. Let's see. So Secret Wookie says, I've tried to reach out through my grandmother, but I think that he has told her that I walked away from the family. I always call her on her birthday and wish them all the best, and to please say how much I love my sibling and I love my grandma. I have also sent photos to my grandma. And then, let's see. And then Aggie's got something, but I'm going to skip that for now. I'll get back to it. This Wookie says, I looked up to my father and loved him dearly, but I honestly am so hurt. He denied assistance for college and hurt my credit by removing me from medical insurance, and this stopped me from seeing my doctors. Ooh, fudge. Good Lord. I mean,
yay, team shitty dads.
you know who I honestly feel like this one kind of relates to? Z. I know she's not here, but oh man. And I can't go into detail about it because I'd have to have her talk about it, but man, I know that she's having a tough time to a point where she can't even attend school this semester because of her father.
Oh my god, that's awful.
Yeah, I'm not too happy about it either. So you want to add anything to what Secret Wookiee said, and then we'll jump back to what Eggy was talking about.
Oh man, see, that's what I'm trying to say, because like, first of all, that fucking sucks. That's just fucking awful. And again, this is okay. There's a book I reference a bit, but I probably will continue. It's called it's I'm trying to remember the exact title off the top of my head, otherwise I just Google it. But it's something along the lines of it's the title is Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents.
Yeah, you've mentioned that one before.
By Lindsay Gibson. And I encourage like that, because many a times I feel like children, including and more specifically adult children, the adult children of these parents continue to still have this mentality like that parents are supposed to like know better. But the thing is that they don't. Parents don't know better, and many a times because of the impact and the influence that parents had in our upbringing, we may see them and put them on pedestals that they're supposed of expectations of knowing so much and knowing better. But the thing is that they're very similar to us, of like they are just doing the best they can with what they got. Now when I say that, I'm not excusing their behavior. I'm saying that instead of seeing them at the pedestal, see them as the human that they are, and that you have the right to be hurt and you have the right to have your feelings about that, and it's not to be put or to be seen, to push to the side that this is something they can't do. And I really hope you get to still process and feel like how hurt you are from this, and by this parent and by your dad. And I hope that you aren't stuck in that place where you feel like you have to make the amends with him in order to experience the amends. Does that make sense to you?
To me, not that last part. You don't have to. You don't have to give amends to experience the amends.
So you don't, meaning like you don't, like, for instance, here's another example. Our eldest said one time, a long time ago, I doubt he remembers, but he said that in order to like forgive what our dad has done, he needs to have a conversation where our dad accepts what he's done. And I'm like, okay. There's a chance he's never going to accept it. He's never going to acknowledge it. I'm literally I'm the one that sent dad a fucking letter of explaining of everything that he did. And when I was, again, a super long story short, when I found that letter again, he wrote little notes all over the letter that basically excused his behavior and disregarded my feelings. And
gotcha. So don't expect much out of that.
Yeah, and it's like, regardless if they are receptive, if they're not receptive, if they're receptive now, if they're receptive later, whatever the case may be, you still have the right to feel hurt and like make your own sense of peace with self, because it's not fair to you to still feel the pain of what they've done, especially with the likelihood that they're not holding it and thinking about it as much as you're thinking about it, because you're the hurt kid in the situation. And so it's going to hurt more for you than it may hurt for them. And so with that, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, Secret Rookie, it sounds like a pretty poo-poo deal. So hopefully you can get through it, and hopefully the advice that Asteria gave you could help. We're going to switch gears and back up a bit. I mean, it's kind of still along the same topic, but Eggy says one, families suck, which they do. But then she says, I struggle sometimes with the fact that I cut my mother out of my life due to various reasons, but I still have a feeling that I may regret it later in life if I get married or she dies down the line, and regret not staying in touch with her. But then I battle with the fact that I chose to cut her out for a reason. So it sounds like she's dealing with like I don't know how I'm gonna feel later. You know, because I mean, honestly, I've had the thought too, because, you know, honestly, I've cut my mother out for a reason, because she fucking sucks and I don't like her and I don't care to ever see her again. But what's going to happen after she croaks or whatever? I'm not worried about the married part, because I'm still like 99% convinced that's never happening. But if she croaks, how am I going to feel about that? Is it going to be the same thing as when our grandmother died, who basically raised us? You know, I remember getting the call, she's dead, and I was like, huh, that sucks, and I just walked off. That was literally my response. I turned back around, I was in the car, I parked the car, I was like, all right, well, Granny's dead, and I went home. End of story.
I had a very different experience.
I think you were closer. Yeah. I was just like, oh, that was the lady that raised me, and now she's gone.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go get a burrito.
Granny was like, well, I mean, like, once again to say, it's like the two people that were like as close to parents in my life are already dead. Like, my grandma died when I was 11, and my great grandma died when I was 20.
I think
20,
that was
23.
Was it 2019? I think she passed away.
2018.
2018. Okay.
Actually, her 5 years coming up next month. So with that, it's like I mean, I hear you with like your mom and everything like that. I still feel this with like dad. Like, first of all, I don't even know if he's still alive.
Yeah, neither do I. I have no idea.
I don't know how I would or wouldn't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, but I think about that quite a bit. Of like, how would I respond if I get the message that you know, he's dead? But also, it's been 10 years since I've talked to the guy, so I don't know who he is anymore. I definitely know he doesn't know who I am anymore. And yeah, it's just like to kind of like put it all together, I think, which is interesting, we talked about relationships and then we started talking about parents, is that the relationship with parents, I feel, is just a complex one. I feel like there's so many messages that we get where we're told we're supposed to love unconditionally, except it's really complicated if we have parents that are emotionally immature or not meant to be parents or weren't ready to be parents, or whatever the case may be, or hell, they were even involved, maybe they were too involved and they become helicopter parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of these different ways, it makes it such a complex and like relationship to navigate, and because of that, it has such an impact to our romantic relationships. So, like, just being the kid of an emotionally immature parent is it's just difficult. It really is just difficult.
That's probably why Eggy and I get along. I mean, we both kind of deal with the same crap, to an extent. So, yeah, I don't know, like, because I like, I have the same thought that Iggy has, you know, like, how am I going to react when it happens? But then, like I said before, like, I've been just so emotionally just walled off from everything. Even when I do experience feelings about shit, I can't let it out. Even when I want to, it's just, you know, there's a backflow preventer for all the plumbers out there. You'll get that one. Stops like feelings from backing up in the pipe and bursting out the top. So basically, they just come out my butt and down the toilet. So, yeah, I don't know, because I don't know. The only thing is that maybe this might work for Aggie. I don't know, because I know she's trying to become a vet, right? Not like a veteran, but a veterinarian. And she wants to work with animals. But I mean, it's one of those things. I think that's why when Granny died, I just had that thing. I was just like, well, she was old. People die. I'm like, there's just another bag of meat that's not here anymore. Like, I don't know. I just see things very scientifically a lot. That's why when people are like, oh my God, did you hear like this this person like jumped in front of a train or something? I'm just like, well, it's going to take a while to clean that train.
I feel like
I don't know. I can't, like, I've just shut off. Like,
well, but that's the thing though. Like, here's the thing. Sorry to call you out, and you know that doesn't stop me. Is that like that's the thing, and the impact of so much pain in life in one way or another. Many of folks disconnect from their emotional experiences if they're exposed to so much emotional pain, because their body, their nervous system practically sends signals to the brain saying, hey, if you keep on leaving, like, we have so many examples that leaving this turned on is actually going to destroy the whole fucking system. We need to turn this off in order to keep us alive.
Mm-hmm.
because the core purpose, mission is a better word. The core mission of our bodies, our brains, our nervous system, our gut, intuition, and all that is to stay alive. But that doesn't mean like stay happy, stay healthy, whatever. It's just stay alive.
Right.
And because of that, many people may say like, oh, I'm a rational person, I'm a very logical person. However, what I hear, especially from my profession, is, wow, you must have been exposed to many occurrences where your system learned that being emotional isn't safe and can like hurt you. And that's the thing. People disregard and minimize mental health and emotional wellness so much, and it's just as impactful as physical health. Like, the whole concept of, like we talked about before, of the impact of being completely isolated without any type of social interaction is the equivalent of smoking like what was it, some outrageous number of like 11 packets of cigarettes a day.
Hey, like, that sounds like me.
It'll kill you. And the thing is that interestingly enough, our body will still suppress so much of this, even if it will kill you, in order to stay alive in the momentary, but will have consequences in the long term. And it shows up in different ways. This is why people are like, oh, I don't have mental health problems, and yet have a lot of like, they're sick a lot. They have a lot of other like medical illnesses. They have a lot of body pain, gastrointestinal issues.
Mm-hmm.
It all is just as impactful as your physical health, except we get so many messages to disregard it that we just internalize it to do so. And therefore, in order to feel like we're still in control, we minimize it ourselves chronically, and therefore like disconnect us from others, which is interesting that we get disconnected and like, oh, I want to stay isolated, I don't want to connect, except that's bullshit, because humans are hardwired on an evolutionary level to be a collective species. And it's the societal influences of families of origin, school settings, socioeconomics, politics is what continues to divide us and ultimately kill us.
Yeah. Let's see. Iggy was saying, kind of off topic. Actually, not really. It's pretty on topic. But she says, when my dog had cancer and we were trying to deal with her many health issues, I was the one who went into, quote, clinical mode, almost completely unemotional. From the moment we got the diagnosis to the moment I made had to convince the family the call that it was time for her to be put to sleep. It wasn't until after it was done that it hit me and I let the emotions out, thinking it will likely be the same when my mother dies. Well, that's like, I think that's pretty standard. Well, not pretty standard, but like for people just being an adult, it's like, all right, here's the situation at hand. I have to be here physically, get shit handled. But you still let it out afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So it still got taken care of eventually, but like, with me and my grandma, like, it never really fully came out. I got choked up about it like a year later, but because I was out at Burning Man, but like, it never came out. That one just went down into the vault, put the lid on it. I'm sure it's going to come out terribly later, eventually.
Yep. Or you'll die.
Or I'll die. The latter is probably going to be more likely. But yeah, I mean, it's like, if that's what happens, that's what happens. It's like, but I think what she's trying to get at is, from what I'm seeing, is she's trying to figure out how to handle the situation if she feels guilty about her decision afterwards, when it's too late. Or regret her decision, even though she has a reason for it. And the only thing I can say is I read something. It was just like the headline of a video. I didn't watch it. I got nothing on it. It was just saying, when you look back on it after everything's over, remember the sour, like the bad thoughts. Remember the reason why you got rid of him. It's kind of like breaking up with someone. It's like, why did you leave them? Yeah, you may be like, oh, but he was good, or they were good with this and this and this, but there was a reason you kicked them out of your life. They sucked so hard at one spot that you're like, I can't do this shit anymore, and then you shoved them out. So that's what you did with your mom. So like later, after she croaks, it's like, you can be like, all right, well, that sucks, she's gone, but you got to remember, you booted her out of the house, or not literally the house, but out of your mental space for a reason. And you just have to have that crap on deck. At least that's my thought.
Okay, so here's, oh gosh, hold on. I gotta get prepared for this one. Okay. So,
am I wrong?
No. You have a lot of solid points. And I want to say is that, like, just because I'm trying to gather all my thoughts because, again, my brain is very excited by this topic and I'm trying to calm it down because I got to slow it down more than anything because I'm like, hold on, words.
Is that some excitement in your pants?
Yes, these are the things that give me a psychological boner. Is this when it comes to emotions they don't go away. As much as people think, oh, I just won't deal with that feeling, it'll just dissipate. Except that's genuinely not how that works. What happens instead is that the emotions that you don't address or handle in whichever way, whether it's with directly towards a person, through therapy, doing your own work, fucking going to support group, whatever it is, talking to a friend, whatever, is that until the emotion is experienced and processed, it will then instead store itself in your nervous system and in your mental capacity, or like in your mental spaces. And whether you experience now, whether you experience later, it's just a matter of time unless you die first before you do that. And ultimately, the emotion will still show up at the intensity to which it was stored. Again, contrary to popular belief. So I feel like, and I encourage that, yes, there still may be I don't know how else to like say this other than directly saying it. Regardless of either way, there's still going to be something that you're going to process with somebody's loss after they're gone. That's going to be different than how you're processing it even when they're still alive. Because there's some kind of impact to when somebody is still in some capacity accessible to compared to when they're dead and no longer reachable.
Mm-hmm.
And that will change the relationship to which you have with them in some way. Now, I would say once again, you could only do the best you can while they're here in whichever way that you, in your human autonomy, want to and would like to. And there's still probably going to be stuff that's going to come up in one way or another once this person is gone. And this goes out to anyone listening, whether the relationship is good or bad or non-existent anymore, or it's not like how it used to. A, B, C, and D. It's that regardless of how much you do now, it will still not minimize how the way that it will impact you after they're gone.
Gotcha. Well, then, based off of what you just said, I feel personally, I'm not giving you advice. This is just my opinion. Eggy, is I would stay away from her especially because after what Eggy just put in chat, Eggy says, yeah, I know my reasons for why she stopped talking to her. Maintaining a relationship with her had one of the biggest impacts of my depression, and couple suicide attempts stemming from her. So I know for my emotional and physical health, I cut contact with her. And yes, it would be nice to be able to get closure with her, but like you said, Asteria, that isn't likely going to happen. And now I can't. And I know I can't hinge my closure on getting her to admit her wrongdoings, but now I feel as if I'm in the limbo of telling myself I moved on because I cut contact with her, and knowing that's just a coping mechanism.
Okay. Is it okay if I jump in again?
Yeah, that's all she wrote.
Okay. So I'm going to speak on behalf of experience from this angle, because as of this year, it's been 10 years since I cut off communication from our dad. And at first, No. Let me go a different angle. I think the thing is that contrary to popular belief, um, I don't agree with the concept of quote unquote stages of grief. Um, I would say instead of like stages, I think it's more like phases.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to change the terminology because I feel like with the idea of like stages is that like you progress in this like upward direction of like, oh, you're at this one, then you like graduate and go to the next.
Right.
I think it's that you fluctuate in different ways um until you reach acceptance, and acceptance is subjective to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I say that because in my first phase of it all, I thought I was over my, or like our dad, like, and my care and love for him because I cut him off. And I was like, there we go. I'm great. He's a piece of shit. Like, da 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 da. Right. And I was like, and now I'm better. And that was the source of my problems. However, I was completely wrong because if that was truly the source of my problems, then I wouldn't still be repeating the pain he had and that impact on me throughout life until I really dealt with it. And the part that was actually difficult to accept was that why it was so hard was because I had visions of an exposure, if not in my head by expectations and as dreams, or how he actually presented himself, of like this ideal relationship with him. Like, I'm gonna plainly say it, I love, like, I love our dad. Like, and that's really shocking for me to say. Even as I said it right now, like my inner child was like, what the fuck did you just say? Because the thing is that in those phases that I was talking about, is that like you cutting somebody off, although kind of stops a lot of the big impact of the wound, it doesn't take out the poison that's already there, and the impact of like how it's like hurting you still. And for a long time I was very angry at our dad, very very angry at him. I wanted, like, I I I was so angry. I wanted to hurt him. I wanted to like have him feel even a slither of the pain that I experienced from him and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what it was harder for me to admit was that I was angry with him and I loved him. And the confusion of that is why it took me so long to understand that I had both feelings, or I had not just a singular feeling towards him. And the thing is that like what was difficult for me was like, I know I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for dad. Because he was so education heavy, and he tried to do the best he could with what he had, so I didn't go down the road that he went down. And if you're new to this conversation, our dad was like the king of meth. Or is, I don't know, he might be dead, I don't know.
Was or is, yeah, we don't know.
Well, yeah, we honestly have no fucking idea.
We don't know if the patriarchy has finally crumbled.
I know. However, but it's like my music, my love for music, my love for education, my connection with spirituality, my love for like nature and art and all these things. I wouldn't have had that if it wasn't for dad. And it was hard to admit that any part of him existed in me. And the truth is, it does. It just fucking does. And that's my acceptance.
Right.
And how I reframed it is that with the life he has, he couldn't accept and appreciate all of the gifts that he gave to me, So what I can do is I can appreciate and love them with all the work I've done and the chance that I have. And it's that you can still have that relationship with the things of why you love and care for these folks if you're at that place, or you see that there's care, love, or whatever the case may be. You have that ability to reframe it, and there may be a chance you won't get the closure with them that you wish you could. And it hurts. It's the part I feel about being a human. It's really hard, and it's so impactful. It kills people. It pushes people to suicide. It's the influence to depression, anxiety, personality disorders, fucking, PTSD. All of these things can be so impacted by attachment and attachment relationships, especially to our caregivers. So it's not easy. You can only do the best that you can.
So, it's kind of like the same thing with Secret Wookiee. Then it kind of goes back. It's like, as long as you feel like you did your best, or that you made the attempt to where you think it's like, you know what, I tried and it just didn't work out, at least you can know that you did everything you could.
Exactly. And with that, that's where I'm going to end for tonight.
Alrighty, I will save my stuff for next week. Hopefully I can still remember. I wrote down notes.
Write it down on your Remarkable.
I get on paper, don't worry. Eggy knows about it. There was a bit of a situation today that really, really, really pissed me off. But yeah, let's see. Eggy says thank you. To you, not me, but you know, I see how it is.
To both of us. To both of us.
Indeed I do, and I'm here if you need to vent or anything. Oh, thank you, Eggy. I don't know how else to vent about it. It's 8 o'clock, so as soon as the stream's over, I am going into that place where I sleep.
Oh, you mean your bedroom?
Yes, that thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
Eggy says thank you, and then, yeah, Secret Wookiee says thank you also.
Well, I want to thank everybody for chatting. Like, it's nice to come back after a break and have such a interactive conversation. So, shout out to the chat.
Yay, thank you, chat. And Secret Wookiee says y'all are awesome. Thank you very much. You're awesome for coming in here and giving us something to chat about.
And thank you for being vulnerable and talking about this. Shit's not easy. Being a human's hard. You could only do the best you can with what you got.
Yes, and thank you, Eggy. I know you were very brave putting your experiences out there about, you know, dealing with your mom and your depressive state. Putting it out online like that, it's very scary. So, good job on that one. Let's see. All right, yeah. So they're just kind of chat with each other. All right. Again, thank you guys for hanging out. Everybody who was watching, anybody who did stop by, anybody watching the recording. If you do have any questions or topics you want us to talk about, whenever you think about it, you can go join the Discord. There should be a link below the stream. It says Discord. I think it's like over on the right side. It depends on how you're looking at it. If you're on your phone or your computer, it's different. But go over there, click on the Discord. You can jump in there, and I think I'd put a specific like topic in this says mental health topic, so you can post something in there if you think about it right there and be like, oh, I'll have them talk about this, or just whatever, just throw it in if you want. It's up to you. And then next week, assuming that you don't have anything crazy going on, we should be back 6:30 p.m. Pacific time again. Do you know if you got anything getting in the way?
No, I don't think so. Because next Friday's my birthday. I don't think so. I don't know. I literally am not putting the most effort into planning my birthday this year. So, but no, I don't think so. I should still be here.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, and for anybody watching this on YouTube, you can check the link in the description below the video. That'll take you to the Twitch page, which is twitch.tv/kilted_pork. go over there, give us a follow, and then join us every Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time for Therapy Thursday. And it's more beneficial if you're here on Twitch instead of YouTube because of situations like today where chat didn't show up on the video feed. Sorry, everything that was typed, you didn't get to see it because Streamlabs is being stupid. I don't know. I can't fix that right now. I'd have to look into it later.
It is.
It is. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Sorry for cutting it short. Normally we go until 8:30, but Asteria's whatever she's got going on, she's got to get out of here. But yeah, we will be back later. And as far as my streaming goes, I guess maybe keeping out Saturday morning for some Coffee with Isaac. That's the only thing I could think coming up.
I love Coffee with Isaac. That's one of I like that stream.
Yeah, so that would be I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 9 a.m. Pacific time whenever I get out of bed on Saturday.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Talk to you next week then. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Asteria. Bye.
Bye.
All right, she's gone. And it's too damn early. Whatever, Aggie. All right, so we'll see you guys later. You have a wonderful rest of your Thursday and a wonderful rest of your week and all that other good jazz. And take care of yourselves. Tell yourself that you're great and drink water and get some sleep. Get some sleep. Especially you, Aggie. Get some sleep. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Okay, bye, chat. Bye.